Sometimes I look at my phone and I go, "Argh," and then I just kind of like, whatever. What are you gonna do? I can't do
Then he
anything about it.
listen. Then when he's done grumbling about that, he complains about Taylor Swift's new handshake with
Oh
Brittany
my
Mahomes.
God, bro. Let's talk
So
about that. Let's talk about that.
The Three RoOs podcast.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Three RoOs podcast. This is episode 16 or 15 or 17. We're trying to figure out which one right now. This is a kind of from the hip conversation today. No guests, just the Three RoOs. I think, it's like relative to like what you bring in. Like I remember somebody in a press conference was talking to dude, what was her name? The one who was like a judo champion and the blonde who was like a judo champion. She got beat by Holly Holmes, um,
Rhonda.
Ronda Rousey. And so at the time, she was like the biggest star in the UFC. And then people were like, "Well, you're a woman. You get paid like should other female athletes get paid the same way as men?" And blah blah. And she had said like, "You should get paid based on what you bring in. Like it's not like Dana and the name of the other guy is an Italian first name. He was like, she was like, it's not like they're nice and so they're just deciding to pay me a bunch of money. Like I'm the biggest star in the UFC right now. I drive the highest ratings. I get paid the most money." And that was the same thing with like Conor McGregor. Like he rose up pretty quickly. I mean, he beat his way through some people that were stars at the time, but like he also had the biggest mouth. He could promote his own fights. Like he's kind of synonymous with the UFC. Like they owe a lot to him. So of course he was getting millions of dollars. You know what I mean? Like fighting, where people like Nate Diaz, who up until his fight with McGregor, right? Like McGregor kind of made him as far into like a millionaire. Um, and now he's fighting Jake Paul for a bunch of money. Already did. Now he's doing it again. So I think it is kind of relative to what you bring in, and I think you're right as far as like what you could do other stuff, but I mean I'm not getting in the ring at a professional level for like less than six figures.
No, no, you cannot pay me. Yeah, and
Yeah,
literally it'd be six figures. I think it's tough though, right? Because it's like the idea of equal pay and shit is such a hot topic right now. And I agree, like it
yeah,
should be like based on what you bring in. I think the
yeah,
big problem right now is like the WNBA, the women's soccer, like ESPN is pushing the shit out of those. So people are watching them and they're getting clicks and they're getting all this other stuff and they're still not seeing the money side of that. Like I think it's and this is more than just women. I'm sure it happens on the men's side of things too. Like in today's day and age, it's no longer butts and seats, right? It's streams, it's clicks online, it's cuts of
yeah,
videos, like it's sponsorships, it's all this other shit.
yeah.
Yep, I saw some videos about like overall revenue share of the NBA compared to overall revenue of the WNBA, and female athletes are actually getting paid more percentage wise than the male athletes are.
Oh,
It's
really?
like two times more percentage wise of the overall revenue.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. And so like I mean again I didn't fact check any of the numbers, but
Yeah,
it just sounded like well, if they're basing it on revenue, which is more than just butts and seats, like you're saying, but
Right.
yeah,
It's so tough too because like to us, just number versus number, like that makes sense, right? Like that to me says if you're basing it off women, that women are making enough. But then you sit here and you're like, well, yeah, it's a hell of a lot easier for owners of WNBA to be like, yeah, you can take like 10% of revenue when revenue is $10 million versus the NBA where it's like we're not giving you 10% of $100 million, right? Like it's
mm,
it's so it's shitty. It's all around shitty. It's one of those things where you want to see everybody make $1 billion, but also you're all making a lot of more money than I'm making. So like, I don't know, just be happy with what you get too. That's also
yeah.
a
And
thing.
you're an athlete. Yeah, I think it's too. It's like people that well, we can go there after, but I think like with professional athletes, at the end of the day, like it's entertainment, like right, it's the entertainment industry, and so I think it really should just be relative to like what you're bringing in. The biggest stars should get paid the most. People who aren't really watched should not be getting paid the same amount. Um, I think with college athletes, if you kind of go there, and there's always like, well, D1 athletes can't be sponsored and this and that. And I think in a way, it's kind of like they're
Well,
bringing
now
in
they can.
so much money. Yeah, I guess now they can, but before it's like they're bringing in so much money and they weren't able to get sponsored. But it's kind of like Yeah, but you're also going to college for free, and college is really fucking expensive. And you got into
Yeah,
that college, you
but
could be a total moron, but you could
if
still
you
get into
break
that
those
school.
numbers down, look, I'm gonna be the first to tell you, NIL, there's a lot of work that's got to be done in NIL. There's a lot of shady shit that's happening. There's a lot of empty promises. There's way too much money being thrown at 18-year-olds without any type of guardrails or anything like that.
Mm,
That being said, college football alone, it is disgusting the amount of money that those schools bring in and
yeah.
that the NCAA brings in. And those students weren't even allowed to get a meal out of it. Like Reggie Bush lost his Heisman because someone bought his mom a car. Like, come on, really? You're talking about USC in the early 2000s. We're bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars and using Reggie Bush's picture on all of it, right?
Mm,
So,
yeah.
like, I'm all for them getting more than a tuition out of it. Do I think that you need to give something back? Absolutely. Do I think that you should probably, if you're going to take NIL money, you should probably, I don't know, get a degree? I don't know, have some classes about how to use that money? Like,
Yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a really good point.
I mean, think about us at 18. Someone handed you $2 million for being in a commercial. What the fuck would you go do with it?
Mm,
18-year-old
yeah.
Rich, 18-year-old Rich would not have put that into, a savings account or anything like that.
Nah, super gaming PC. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't even know honestly, dude, because it's like that's like a different life and different version of me. I don't even know how I would use it. But I think like maybe I'd be smart with it. But I think because I was raised to be smart with money, a lot of these kids that are kind of going to college on, I feel like, no, I shouldn't. No, I shouldn't. I'm not saying most, but there's a large percentage of kids that go to college that like this is their way out. Like athletics is their way out. They don't really have any concept of money, and so you give them money, it burns a hole in their pocket because they didn't have like parents that kind of teach them like, hey, you should invest or you should do this and that. But just people in general, I think if you give, everyone's always like, well, if I win the lotto or I do this, I would do X, Y, and Z. It's always like I buy X, Y, and Z. Very few people are like, yeah, I would turn, let's just call it, I'd turn 10 million into 100 million because I would invest in like real estate, this and that. Like no one really comes out saying that. I think I agree with you, dude, that they should have classes like that for sure to teach kids how to be responsible. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that they should do.
I
But
mean, the
I
most
guess,
obnoxious
yeah.
thing is seeing these college athletes who are like marketing major, business major, lifestyle. Like, fuck it, just have an athlete major. I don't care. You're not going to school to be an athlete. Have a major that's called athlete. Have a major that's called lifestyle, but you have to be an athlete to take it. And then literally, it's 4 years of learning how to be an adult. All right.
Mm,
Stop wasting resources of people who actually are trying to do these majors on kids who aren't, but teach them how to be an adult.
yeah. I think in general, dude, even like high school though, even before college, I feel like they should teach kids how to be an adult, right? Like no one, I didn't have any of these electives like where it's like, hey, like people always use this example, like I don't even know how to balance a checkbook. Like nowadays, you might not have to, but like basic things like that, like no one teaches you that shit. It's just like get straight A's and apply to a college and go to a 4 year college and rack up a bunch of fucking debt that you're going to pay off for the next 30 years. And like,
Well, that's because you got to remember too, high schools get their money based on shipping the kids to college. I can tell you right now, I sat and watched it. I was forced senior year to listen to my guidance counselor go, you got to apply to UVM. You got to apply to UVM. You're going to get into UVM. Go to UVM. I was like, I don't want to fucking go to UVM. They would not let me leave until I click submit on a UVM application. And
like
I
states.
guarantee it's because the high school probably gets a percentage of the amount of students that go from the high school up into that college.
I don't know. I
Maybe
think
not directly,
most of
but if
school's
you,
money, most of school's money comes from taxes. I don't think they get that much from colleges.
YouTube being the most conspiracy theorists I know can't just go with me on this one. Can't just
I,
go with me on the fact that I'm force fed into a
I
single
would like to
college.
see some proof. I know I pay a lot in
Oh,
taxes, and I know it
is
tells me how
that
much
how it
goes to the
goes
school.
when it's one thing, Tyler would like to see some proof, but when it's other things, Tyler's like, this could happen. This could be a thing.
There's
Just
something,
go
dude.
with me on just go with me on this.
I still think
I
the threads thing is 100% true.
I pay taxes, and it says on my tax bill sometimes, you know, X thousand dollars goes to the school.
No,
Yeah,
That's how I
I'm
know.
just fucking around. Actually, we're
I
dealing
think
with
it
a big
works.
thing out here about that right now because they want to take and like condense the schools, but the money
What
they're
do you mean?
asking.
Like have like a regional?
So right now they have, my town has 4 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and a high school, and they want to take the middle school. All the schools need extra work, but instead of putting money towards renovating the schools, they want to make it 2 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and then renovate the high school. Which, whatever, that's fine, but they're asking for the amount of money they're asking to do it doesn't make any sense at all. And they're not answering the questions that need to be answered. Like, you're going from 4 elementary schools down to 2. What's going to happen to all those jobs? And why can't you just take this money you're asking for and fix the schools that you currently have? And there's already something in place. One of the elementary schools has already been promised. The land has been promised to the town for something else. So it's very interesting. This is my first time I'm actually paying attention to local elections in my life. So
I feel like people should pay attention to those more. Somebody yelled at me one time because I basically said, like, if you want to feel change, you should pay more attention to your municipal elections versus just like, the presidential election. Like vote local, vote state, and they didn't like that.
Show up to your town council meetings. I'm sure you could actually, like, if you went in there and threw a fit about some shit, like, I'm sure you could actually make a change.
Yeah, maybe.
it's also how you get started, right? Like,
A lot of people do, yeah.
local positions are where you get your foot in the door in government. It's where you start shaking hands because you figure everybody local has to talk to their congressman. So you start to meet the congressman, and then the congressman can introduce you to people. Like,
Yeah.
it's not
You
just,
got,
I think it's this thing that people think where, like, you just automatically one day can wake up and be like, I'm gonna be the next president of the United States. It doesn't, well, until 2016, it doesn't really happen that way, right? Like,
yeah.
you have to go through other levels. It's the same with like coaching, right? Like, you don't just wake up one day and you're like, I'm gonna be an NFL head coach. No, right? Like,
Yeah.
you have to go through the progress, and it's just,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I always say I would like love to move if I moved back to my hometown because I always say I'm a townie, but I just don't live in a town anymore. But in my heart, I'm a townie, and I'm like, if I were to move back there, 100% I would join like like the council and run and be the mayor and try to be the mayor because I'm like, I just don't agree with the way that the town, like some of the things that they've done. I don't agree with the direction of it. I don't agree with the change. I'm like, I would run for that. But no, I think it's a you have to because it's like, look, at the end of the day, I mean, people are fucking stupid, but obviously, like the media fixates on the president and that office, but it's like, and when they're running too, a lot of them run on state level decisions. When I'm the president, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, you're not, because that's a state level decision. Like, you don't really have that power, right?
yep.
And people get fired up about that because no one really knows like what's state, what's federal. So everyone fixates so much on the office of the presidency. And then, you really think like Biden wakes up and he's worried about like one little town in the middle of Ohio and he's going to like change that? No, unless there's a shooting or something that like, they can like fly people into to, well, we won't go there, but like that's not their job. And like, I think people also don't understand like what the president's supposed to do too. Like it's morphed, it's become a figurehead.
I agree. I think of this all the time where people get so outraged at the president, and you're sitting here going, okay, let's reel it back a minute. What the fuck has, we call it the swamp, right? What has Congress done for us? Oh, that's right. They've spent the last 2 weeks trying to get their own heads out of their asses and pick someone to be their speaker. Like, come on.
Yeah.
They've not agreed on budgets, and they've sent money to Ukraine and Israel.
Dude, oh my God, that was the first thing I thought of. It's like, so wait, we got to like fund you guys. We got to raise the debt ceiling. You don't have money for this to actually run the government and be admins on the day to day. But all of a sudden, you're just going to find $100 billion to fight 2 wars that aren't ours.
Well, guys, that's because they didn't learn how to balance their checkbooks in elementary school. Come on.
That's true. That's true. Dude, I was thinking too, like on the walk of the dogs. Like, obviously, you don't want to have like one person that holds like the purse, but like, and maybe I'm wrong here, but is there not like, if you're gonna request money, right? Shouldn't you have to build like a business case and what's the ROI? Because I know when I need budget for work, I need to prove an ROI. Hey, you're asking for this budget, like, what am I gonna get?
I was gonna say, I was just talking. Caitlin and I were just talking about this yesterday, where like, it's not as simple as like, okay, here's your money, do whatever the fuck you want with it. Like, you have to actually show what you're going to do with the money. Like, and it's not like I'm going to put a roughly this much here. No, you have to account for every fucking penny. Like I've
Well,
written grants, and the budget portion of a grant is not fun because you have to account for every penny.
Well,
unless you're the Pentagon and you lose $6 million, no one, or six
Yeah,
million, was it?
fuck it, right? Like,
if the
No
news
one gives it
article
that much.
said if the news article said of this $60 billion, 10 of it are going to Lockheed Martin and 15 are going to fucking Northrop Grumman, then people would be like, oh, fuck, we're just writing these bills to pay for our own contractors sending money to Ukraine, but it's actually just going to our own companies.
Well, I think some bills though, like I think if you were to really dive in, you probably would see where some of the money's going. Like I remember during the first the
No, you
first
can
therein
stimulus
Google
bill,
lies therein lies the rub. Who's actually going to sit there when
and
you
read
could
400
sit and
pages.
I mean it's armchair quarterbacking, right?
Yeah.
Armchair congressmaning at its finest. You read a headline and you're like, what the fuck is our government doing? Like no one's actually going to dive in and do it, you know?
You
Yeah,
can
you
go back
have
and
to.
Google, but most of it goes back to fucking defense contractors and not
Mm-hmm.
over
Oh,
to the countries overseas.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, hopefully there's the ROI right there because I'm like, if we give somebody $100 billion, right? In return, we should probably expect 10x, right? Like we're not gonna pass this, we're not gonna do this. Like, what's the business case? Can we all agree? And then the people that sponsor it, if you don't get your tax, you get fired. You get impeached. You're out of the office. The same way I would lose my fucking job if I ask for $100,000 and I don't give them a return on that. I don't meet my ROI goals. Guess who doesn't have a job on Monday?
Well, so here's
Right?
the other
Like,
question too. Like, and I'm coming at this from what I've dealt with budget wise, which is grants in life, and what people don't realize about grants. So, say you get $1 million grant, right? You're at a university, you don't get $1 million. You get, depending on the university you're at, you get maybe $350,000 because there's this thing called overhead. And overhead is what you pay the university, and that's supposed to keep the lights on and give you the facilities and pay for the lawyers and all this other shit. It's 60% in some universities. Some it's 50,
damn.
some other ones it's 35. It varies based on university. But I'm curious, when we say we're giving these places $100 million, are we giving them that and then there's overhead that we're keeping, or are they
Bro,
getting like $30 million and we're keeping 70 million for ourselves and just
That's a
kind
good
of throwing
point.
it at these contractors?
I'm,
And who, by the way, who's the overhead though, too? Right? Like, it's like,
Dude, that's the most infuriating thing when you're managing the budget of a grant and you're sitting here going, all right, so I just spent $1,000 on the office supplies on this grant fund, which I'm supposed to get from overhead because it's keeping the lights on. It's
yeah.
overhead, but no, they're not going to give me that. They're going to tell me I have grant money. It's the most fucking infuriating thing in the entire world.
I wonder how much money goes into certain pockets.
See, I'm telling
wait,
you.
if you click on this, hold on, let me send you a link. If you click on the list link in this link, does it work for you? It says have a list of what the billions of dollars are spent on. It's not working for me for some reason, but it's a state.gov website, which I assume has a list of where the money actually went. But it gives a list of 198 howitzers, 31 Abrams tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, armored personnel tanks, all shit we're providing them from our own defense contractors.
We're probably offloading a lot of that equipment too, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
true.
we're like, yeah, just take it. Like even same thing with like Afghanistan, which again, I don't really agree with. It's funny how I can't have an AR-15 in some states, but these guys who want to cut our fucking heads off are rolling with plate carriers and M4s with ACOGs, and but I think it's probably like old equipment, like old generations.
Yeah.
We got new shit, so it's like,
Well, what's frustrating too is, can you imagine, like, even if we're offloading it, just think how much in transport, like, it's going to cost us to get the shit over there, right? You've got to fuel these jets. You've got to have the jets to begin with. You got to have the manpower
yeah.
for the jets. You got to fuel the jets. Then you got to get them back. Like,
Yeah, we probably also wanted to create a little bit to like let's be honest, right? There's probably an advantage to having somebody like that armed that way in that region of the world. Like there's probably an advantage to us that we're not thinking about, but
Well, bro, we already know the answer. They're fighting a proxy war for us.
I
yeah, but
mean,
like how do you muzzle
this isn't
them?
the
Like how do
first.
you?
This isn't the first time this has happened. Like,
No, you're right, you're right. But like they're not gonna, hey Taliban, you want to go fight Iran for us? They're gonna be like, no,
I
because
mean, isn't that what they did with Bin Laden in the late 80s is they basically were like, here you
When he
go,
was a
here's some shit,
mujahideen.
go
Yeah.
kill Saddam, and then that
They said
backfired
go
real
fight,
hard.
fight, yeah, fight the Russians, and then they got trained and they were veterans. But by the time we got over there, I mean, yeah, it's just there's so many things that I mean I'd like to think people are really thinking 10 steps ahead. So like when I see these things and I get frustrated, because like okay, you got $100 billion for these wars that really aren't ours. You don't have this kind of money for some of our cities and some of our people, but it's like okay, to your point, it's like well, if Russia's weak and we've got a stronger ally, and if we isolate Russia, if we isolate, we have a strong Israel. We kind of have a proxy war of attrition against Iran. We start to isolate China. Like there's all these things that kind of fall into place. And you're like, okay, so then in 20 years things should be a lot better. But I don't know, man. I try to just kind of. Sometimes I look at my phone and I go, "Argh," and then I just kind of like, whatever. What are you gonna do? I can't do anything about it.
Listen, then when he's done grumbling about that, he complains about Taylor Swift's new handshake with
Oh
Brittany
my
Mahomes.
God, bro. Let's talk
So
about that. Let's talk about that.
just remember, I got receipts on you, bro. So watch what you
You do
say.
got some receipts. That's true. Well, okay, wait. I'll
No,
admit.
no, not Twitter receipts. Like my wife just listened to the Shawnee episode, and you have changed your tune since the Shawnee episode
Oh,
about Taylor
100%.
Swift.
Well, here's the
So
thing.
Yeah.
just continue at your own risk.
I think Taylor Swift is extremely talented. Probably one of the most talented people, like artists, there is. Because a girl goes platinum no matter what she does. Girl goes platinum. She's like probably the most powerful woman on earth right now. Okay, I can't take that away from her. Her music career. I don't even know honestly if I can dislike her for this whole NFL thing. I kind of blame the NFL, quite frankly, more than anything. Um, Part of me feels I don't want to say like pity for Taylor Swift, but it's just awkward. It's awkward. Like when I see her in the booth now doing a handshake with Brittany Mahomes and just like doing her little thing, like she's what 34 years old. She was born in 1989. Okay, same year as us.
Wait,
So she's 30.
how did you know she was born in
One
1989?
of the one of the best albums ever released. That's how. Actually is a phenomenal album. But
Jesus Christ.
but like you watch her and I really do get the impression like she's trying to like live the high school days that she never had because she was already a star. And it's like she's like, I'm dating the star tight end football player on the varsity team. Brittany's dating the quarterback on the varsity football team. And she's just acting like a high school kid. And yeah, whatever, let her have her fun and all that. But the NFL is so far up her ass, no matter what she does, that anytime they play, it's not even about. I mean, you
I mean,
got
they now
arguably.
have Travis Kelsey stats based on Taylor Swift. Like it's obnoxious. The
It's not.
NFL is absolutely obnoxious for it.
He's one of the best tight ends to play that position. Mahomes is probably the greatest athlete to be in that position ever. He's a phenomenal quarterback. I love the kid. He's so fun to watch. You've got two all-stars there. And all the NFL ever does is just show her up in the booth. And they just
I mean, they show her when Kelsey doesn't even score. Like literally when they were playing
everything's
the Jets,
about her.
when they were playing Jets, Pacheco scored and it went to Taylor Swift, and I was like, "What? What?"
Like,
I mean, ratings maybe, I don't know, but like who?
I mean,
yeah, new target audience.
I mean, it's definitely new target audience. Like
Yeah.
you look at the numbers. She has like 200 million followers. The NFL has 20. Okay, by far and beyond, they're doing it. I think that they're like, it's just, and it's not the first time I've done it. I get it, but it's overkill. Like you did it the first time and that was cool, but when you start changing the header of your social media pages and start putting things about Swifties in your bio and
Yeah.
start making stats based on her and start posting her little handshake and being like, "Oh my God, we want to be in on this," has nothing to do with the actual game. You're no longer, it's obnoxious at this point.
Yeah. I just want to watch
making
football.
a fuck ton off jersey sales and stuff though. Like,
what do they have like Swift on the back or like Kelsey?
I mean, the Kelsey jerseys, like Kelsey, I mean, Travis has even come out on his podcast though and said it's too much. Like it needs to stop. It's too much.
What would you expect though? You know what I mean? Like,
Like, come on, you can't. It's not like he's sitting here going, "Oh no, I'm dating someone super famous. I hope no one." Like that's not what he's saying. I think what he's saying is, I get it. It's going to be a limelight thing, but like, we had our 5 minutes. Can we all move on? We're now on week how many in a row of them pointing out Taylor Swift?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's
It's obnoxious.
just obnoxious. I will say, I am a card-carrying member of the I Don't Like Brittany Mahomes club. I might be the founder of the I Don't Like Brittany Mahomes club. But I think there might be some genuineness there. She has not posted any pictures on her Instagram with Taylor Swift, and they've been together for how many games now? So, like, you would feel like if this were all for her kind of clout, she would be posting pictures left and right, and she hasn't posted a single one. So, maybe there's a real friendship there. I think the real worry is the Swifties. So, my sister, who was on the podcast, we all know she has some outlandish thoughts on life. The Swifties, she's always up on this. The Swifties are up in arms this week because this past week, when we were seeing the handshakes and the picture takes and everything, who was in the background of those, but was Patrick's brother Jackson, who, for anyone who doesn't know, Jackson Mahomes is a scumbag human being.
Why? I don't know
You
anything
didn't
about
see
him.
what he literally grabbed. He was at a well, first of all, he tried to get his restaurant shut down because he showed up with 20 people without a reservation and they wouldn't seat him. And then he played the Jackson Mahomes, and then he went on. He's got like a TikTok following, and he went on TikTok and tried to get this restaurant canceled, and it didn't work. Then there's a video of him. He literally was like at a restaurant and he grabbed the waitress and like forcefully kissed her and like tried to put moves on her. Yeah, he's like he's under investigation right now. Like he's a piece of human trash. But the Swifties are up in arms because let me see if I can get the actual pictures on X. They're mad that Jackson's in the box with Taylor. They need to get him out of the box, get her out of the box. Security should be ashamed that he was there. Yeah, so the Swifties are now up in arms about her box situation. Don't fuck with the Swifties, man. The Swifties are crazy. When they started dating, the Swifties were worried because he got in fights in training camp and they thought that he was going to be an aggressive person. So, like, I
What?
feel like,
They thought Kelsey was going to be an
yeah,
aggressive person?
yeah.
I
I
mean,
feel
yeah, he's
like,
playing professional football.
I
I
feel
hope he
like,
has some sort of aggression.
like, I feel like just
His
like let
job is to
people
be
live their
aggressive.
lives. Like, I get it. You're in the limelight and I get it. But, like, maybe we just let people live their lives. Like, that's all
like,
I'm saying.
and yeah, like I don't want to like shit on the girl. I just think it's annoying when I'm trying to like watch football on a Sunday and just enjoy a game.
I
And
can't
honestly,
watch
like,
Chiefs games. I can't watch them right now. I want to watch them.
yeah,
I like watching them. They're fun to watch. I
I
can't
love
watch them.
Mahomes. I love Mahomes. I think
Love
he's a
that whole
good
team. They're
kid
fun
too.
to watch. They are very fun to
Yeah,
watch,
yeah.
but I can't do it. It's too obnoxious.
They were more
And it's
fun when they
not her
had like
fault and it's
Tyreek
not
Hill,
his
but
fault. What?
they were more fun a few years ago when they had like Tyreek Hill and who was the running back that was like a stud
Uh,
too.
Le'Veon Bell, man. Or no,
no,
it was not Le'Veon. It was
Kareem
who?
Yeah, it
Hunt.
was
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt. Yeah, dude, that team was fucking stacked, man.
That's before he did whatever fucked up shit he did or
I
something.
mean, he
Right?
beat a woman. It's fine. He's in Cleveland now.
Oh, dude, and their asses got saved by the refs this
Dude,
weekend.
the refs in all of football this weekend, college and the pros, god awful.
Some of
God
those calls were
awful.
just like I genuinely
So
felt
terrible.
bad for Indy because it was
Dude, Indy got
that game got
screwed
robbed.
hard in that game.
Yeah, yeah.
So hard. The refs this season have been bad regardless. It's been painful to watch.
Only good refs this weekend were the Giants Commanders once because the Giants won.
I honestly haven't paid very much attention to football since Brady
I
left.
know, dude. That kind of kills me too. I try to stay quiet, but I mean, why? What are you doing on Sundays, dude?
Whatever else life throws at me. This last weekend
Running.
we rebuilt our dock.
God, you're such an
Really?
adult.
Like
Yeah.
the obviously like not the pylons, right? Like you're like just the decking of it.
No, we redid the. It was their 4x4s. We didn't actually like do anything crazy, but yeah, we
Okay.
rebuilt.
So how do you do that? Do you have to like put one of those like plastic things to like drain the water out so you can actually get and dig down or
Oh, Lake Opakong, they drain the lake every 4 or 5 years so people can do some maintenance on their docks. Well, not drain
oh,
it, but like
really?
they drain it like 4 or 5 feet.
Okay.
And our cove is probably only 8 foot at its deepest portion. So when they drained it 4 or 5 feet, you could walk all the way out to the end of our dock pretty easily. You just
Oh, okay.
at the end you're standing in a foot of muck. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
it was,
yeah, yeah.
it was kind of a bitch to be honest. We say so we have a deck and then like a 15-foot dock piece that comes out, and all that was supporting it was two columns at the end, two posts at the end. So the portion where it connected to the deck, every time you stepped on it, was just slowly pulling itself apart. Whoever built it was an idiot. So we disconnected it, tried to save the dock piece as much as we could, set it off to the side, put 8 4x4s in place, and then I guess we moved the dock back in place, removed some of the boards, put the 4x4s where they would go, connected the piece next to the deck, and then it was the dock probably weighs like 600 or 700 pounds, and so him and I picked it up, rested it in a bracket, and then I would lift the end up, and he would screw a couple screws into the posts that we had put through, and we would slowly work it up 6 inches at a time. I like bruised the fuck out of my forearms. I basically like squatting like 300 pounds.
Yeah. Was it you and your brother?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But it was a good time. It took all of Saturday and like the first part of Sunday.
How long do they drain it for?
I think the winter, which would be so cool because
So you have a little
our
while.
cove now looks like a big donut. Like there's like a mud. You can see the mud in the middle, but there's like a I don't know 2 or 3 foot donut around the cove. So if it freezes, it'll be awesome to like skate around.
Like skate. Yeah. That would be cool. Yeah.
So that's what I do on weekends now, I guess, or that run or whatever.
Well, I feel like because obviously with the move coming up, like I've had to do a bunch of stuff around the house, but I feel like on a Sunday, like I just want to hear football in the background, and then like I'll usually catch like the night game, maybe like the 4 o'clock game. I'll catch like some of that, but there's something about like the fall where you could just at least hear football in the background. Right. I feel like I can't do like a silent house. I always have to have some noise.
I came out in Vanderpool 1405 and
all day football.
Oh man, getting Napolini's crushing a chicken bacon ranch. Oh man.
Oh, that was so good.
I used to do that every Sunday because that was after you had left and you'd literally come visit like every other weekend. We just go to Napoli. Oh, it was such good times.
Yeah, well, he was. I mean, even when you were there, though, we'd watch because your last semester there was at Hofstra was a fall.
Yeah, it was the first semester of 14.
Yeah, fall.
Yeah. 2009. Yeah. No, wait, 2000.
Yeah, we started in fall of 08. Yeah.
Damn,
Jesus Christ.
That's so crazy. Do you ever think about, like, do you just have the realization that you're like, wow, I'm not like young. Like we're young, but we're not like.
We're not. Yes. I was just talking about this with someone the other day where you're sitting here and like, you don't feel like when you always think about people in their, let's call it what it is, mid-30s at this point, right? 2 of us are at least 34. That's mid-30s. So
old bastards.
So it's like you sit here like you looked at that like on TV in life and you were like, oh shit, like those people are much different. And then you're like, oh shit, we are those people now. Like it's fucking crazy to think about.
I know it's hard to it's hard to accept.
I think what's even crazier is to like think about the longevity of things. So like thinking about the fact that we've known each other for 15 years at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we are only a few years away from knowing each other longer than we haven't known each other. Like that's wild.
That's a good way of putting it. And dude, you know what's crazy though too? It's like, okay, so like sometimes I always think back to I had this realization like not long ago. I always thought like when I was 16, like that was like one of the best years of my life. And like I've always like, well, why is 16 always like one of the highlights of your life, or when you're in high school, like one of the best times of your life? I think the realization I came up with was like lack of responsibility / expectations. Because you're always going to have responsibility, but I just feel like the expectations kind of get higher and higher and higher, and that kind of is more stressful. So you kind of look back as like my sophomore year of high school was like the last year where I didn't have, because like junior year is like, this is the year for you to apply to colleges. This is the year you're judged by. Senior year is the year that you apply to colleges and you get into colleges. And like where I came from was like, you got to go to a 4-year school and this and that. And then you go to college and you know what I mean? Like, so every year from there on out is like the bar is higher and higher and higher, right? More and more responsibility. So 16 being a sophomore then was like the last year I didn't have that. So I always look back at 16 as like one of the highlight years of my life. And I'm like, bro, you've lived another one of those lifetimes. Like you know what I mean? Like you're older than 32. Like you've lived 2 of those lives at this point. Now, like in 2 years, less than 2 years, I'll be 36. Like I'll been an adult 2 times over. Right. And it's just like, and it also kind of gives a little bit of purpose too. Cause like I look around, I'm like, bro, you're 34 years old. You're 3 decades down in your life. What did you do with those 3 decades? Like you can't have too many expectations for the first, like almost 2 of them, right? Like you're living at home, you're your parents, you're not 18 yet and all this kind of stuff. Like you're 3 down, right? God willing, you have another 3. Like, what are you going to do with those? Like, what would you do with your 20s again? right? If you could do it all over again, but that's gone. Like you're not in your 20s anymore. You're not 21 for the first time. You're not going out to bars and clubs and Atlantic City. Like you're not doing any of that shit anymore. Who the fuck wants to do it anymore? I'm not even in that mindset. But like that chapter of your life is done, right? So it's like, what are you going to do with the rest of your 30s and your 40s?
What's crazy is when I forget the name of it. I just looked one up real fast. It's called the Notion Life Calendar, but I feel like there's another one that's out there that it puts 90 years of weeks on a calendar or something like that. So there's whatever 90 times 52 is, and when you cross off 34 years of that, you look like, fuck, man, like a third of that's gone.
It's gone, and it's like that, man. And like you realize too, like our parents, they're kind of going into their final chapter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they probably remember being in high school like it was yesterday sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? Like they probably
It's
have
weird.
these.
It's that's weird too. And then like thinking like, okay, they're your parents, like they can't be super old, but also I'm sitting here thinking like my grandpa died when he was 74. Like my parents are less than 10 years away from that. Like that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. So it's
I
like
think
they're
this
in
is
that
called
chapter,
I think
and
this is called an existential crisis. I think that's what we're
yeah, it
currently
could
having
be.
here. It's
It could
fine.
be.
It's
Dude,
fine.
I was walking to the gym. I felt old. I'm walking to the gym, and there's these like three kids, like they're on their bikes, they're like listening to music or whatever, and they're like making faces at me. I'm like, these little fucking kids are talking shit. And I'm like, what's up? And they're like, what are you listening to? And I was like, Motley Crue. What are you listening to? They're like, Addison Rae. And I'm like, oh man, I'm fucking old, dude. Like, they didn't even know who Motley Crue was.
Amanda was telling me a story at the gym sometime last week. There's like she thought they were in like high school or like young college kids were like two or three dudes were like looking over at her or something. And like one started to walk towards her, like they were doing like arms and she was on a leg machine or something. And she's like, why the fuck is this kid coming over? And she just shook her head at him and said, nah, man. And she like the kid walked away or something like that. She's like, I could have babysat that kid. I'm like, don't come fucking talk to me at the
Yeah.
gym.
I mean, Amanda does look young as shit, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Dude,
true.
Looks young.
it's definitely the weirdest teaching like college freshmen and sophomores. Like that is the weirdest thing in the world because I was like, I was you. Oh shit, nope, that was 15 years ago at this point. Like
Yeah.
YouTube was in its infancy at that point. Like social media wasn't really even a thing. We had Facebook. That was about the extent of it. Like
Yeah, dude. She's always like, could you imagine dating somebody that's like her younger sister's age who's like 24, 25?
Oh my
Like,
God.
no, dude, I can't. But like back in my day, fuck yeah, like that was like the best age, right? Like they've got like a little bit going for them. They're a little bit more established. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're kind of like an adult. You think you are. You think you get the world. Now you look back and you're just like, dude, 24, 25, you're a baby. What do you know? And I'm sure in 10 years we're gonna look back on our 30s and be like, what the fuck did we know? You know?
nothing. Nothing. I already know that I knew nothing. I find it hilarious. Don't get me wrong, wouldn't change it at all. I'm really glad I lived in New York City when I was 22, 23
Yeah,
years
yeah,
old.
yeah,
Like it
yeah.
was easy, responsibilities were minimal. Like that's great. I didn't know shit about fuck back then.
Right.
Like,
Dude.
It's funny thinking about like the older you get. I forget that was probably on Rogan when he was talking about it, but like the older you get, why time seems to go by faster is because you're it's less of a port, like a year goes by faster when you're 34 than it does when you're 5, because instead of it being a fifth of your life, it's a 34th of your life, right?
yep.
So it just feels like it's gone by so much faster, although it's the
Oh
same amount of time.
shit, man. I hadn't thought about
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah. And so like the older you get, the faster a year seems to go
Makes
by.
sense, man. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
Do you think you're appreciating more now though that you're
I
like do you
try
think the things you're appreciating are changing too?
I try to, especially when you like, you know, grandparents are passing away or other people's
Mm.
parents are passing away, and you realize that your time here is limited, and you try to fight every day when life pulls you in other directions to try to enjoy some time every day. At least I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
I was
It's
know.
like,
definitely like I definitely you have days where like you finally are just like I gotta not I don't want to say not adult because we all have to adult every day of our lives. That's life now. But like, okay, you don't have to clean the house today. Okay, you don't have to work out today. Like it's okay to sit out on the porch and just, watch the squirrels run around the backyard for a couple hours. Like it's okay. You've got to appreciate those things.
You watch the squirrels run around the backyard?
Yeah, sometimes we'll just sit out back. Literally, sometimes we used to do this before Colin was born. Actually, we'd have breakfast outside in the mornings, and the fucking squirrels, because my backyard is all woods right behind it,
Yeah.
and the squirrels are loud as shit in the morning, and we just sit there and watch them like run around the trees. One day, I swear to God, two of them, you heard a thud on the ground because two of them fell. They were fighting in a tree and they thudded the ground. But you're just sitting there, it's like you just realize just how peaceful it is. Like you haven't even started your day yet. You're just sipping on your coffee. Like you
Yeah.
haven't looked at your email yet. You haven't pulled up any social media. So if the world is burning down, you don't know about it. Like it's
Yeah. Yeah.
That does
Yeah.
sound relaxing.
those
I
don't
feel
happen.
like
Those don't happen when you have a kid anymore. Usually your kid wakes you up and you're like, okay, when's nap time?
yeah, I can only imagine. I think for me, like this year's been a pretty big year of growth. Like maybe I don't want to say like spiritually, but like mentally, I guess. And 'cause I feel like I've had some realizations. Like for example, like with my job, right? Like there's all these things going on right now. There's a lot of changes that are kind of decisions that are being made. No one's really consulting you right now. And but I work at a very large company, so I don't expect anybody to kind of consult me. But they're like, hey, look, you need to go on this track. Well, why? Because if you go on this track, then you can get promoted to this level next year potentially. And I'm thinking, like before, when you're early in your career, you want to climb the ladder, make more money, because you're making dog shit when you first start your career, right? Um, and I'm like, I don't know actually. Like I want to get promoted, but part of me doesn't want to get promoted. And like it's like a weird thing to say, but it's like if I get promoted, I have another target on my back, at least one more target on my back. And I get paid well enough now, thank God, where like I'm able to do what I need to do comfortably to where like and I have more me time than I would if I were to be at the next level. You know what I mean? Where we're talking like 80, 90 hours a week, like a lot of these people work at that level. I don't need to, you know what I mean? Like with my expenses now, I should say, like I'm able to like make ends meet. So like that was kind of like a realization, which is like, what's more important, the money, and the title, or your personal life? And now I'm like, yeah, my personal life. And I didn't say out loud like, hey, I don't want to get promoted, but I did say actually to my boss, I'm like, I kind of got to figure out what I want with my career. And that was kind of my way of saying like, do I really want to do that? Because I'm trying to be more true to myself. That's one thing. Because I like, especially with COVID, it was so easy to just like pour yourself in your job because that's all you have was your four walls and your job for like a while, right? So you just kind of got caught up in it. Plus my industry, I just feel like is always very connected. But then the other thing too, I've learned this year was like give yourself permission to either do things or just not do things. So like to your point, Seth, it's like, you know what? I always feel like I have to go, 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 go. And part of that was kind of like how I was raised. Everything has to be perfect and you always have to do this and that. And I'm like, you know what? Like, fuck it. I give myself permission not to do anything today. Okay, like, oh, maybe I should mow the lawn today. I'm not going to mow the lawn today. I give myself permission not to mow the lawn today. And if my neighbor doesn't, like, if a neighbor thinks it's a little too long and it's got something to say about it to themselves, I don't really give a fuck because I work 5 days a week and I don't want to have to worry about mowing the lawn right now. Or if I want to have Taco Bell, I'm just going to have fucking Taco Bell. Like, I'm my own boss at this point in my life. And like, so it's kind of like, if you want to sit there and watch the squirrels for fucking 3 hours, if that's what makes you happy, then just do it. You're the master of your own destiny. So why shouldn't you do it?
Yeah, one of the studies that I hear referenced often is after you reach, I think it was done. I just looked it up. It was done in 2010. But after you reach $75,000 of income, as long as you manage your expenses well, I assume, you don't actually get any happier. I mean, obviously it changes for people and stuff, but and if that was done in 2010, it's probably 200K now. But
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
that at some point, it's diminishing returns on making more money. You're getting more
Yeah.
responsibility, you're getting more frustrating, you're getting more stress. So I can see where that makes sense. I'm kind of the same way. I don't want to manage anybody. I just want the same amount of responsibility I have now. And
it's
I'll
like,
be happy.
Yeah.
I think part of it is like, you think about it, your entire childhood, you're not right to your face, but like you're kind of subconsciously taught, like, you need to be better. You need to keep getting higher. You need to do more, do better in
Yeah.
school, go to the next grade, keep going.
Yeah.
And it's like, so when you get into the workplace, it's like, I need to do better. I need to get to the next level. I need to be promoted.
Yeah.
But like, it's okay to be happy with the job you have. Not everyone needs to be a CEO. Like that's
Yeah.
right. Where are
The
you going to
only,
find that happy balance?
exactly. The only reason I would consider, because part of me is like, well, dude, you should obviously, like, you're too young to be like, I'm okay with the level I'm at and all this. But it's kind of like, if I were to make it to the next level, like, then theoretically, let's say I did that for another 10 years, like, I'd be able to maybe get out of the game, the corporate game, earlier, because I'd be making like that more, like, more money up front and investing it and like being smart with it. That's the appeal. It's like, so you're going to suffer a bit for 5 to 10 years, but then things should get easier. But I think that's kind of like a privilege too that we have to be able to think like, well, I'm going to live till, like, oh, like the average lifespan is like X. I'm going to live for a while. Like, you might not live for, I might only live till 40. I might only live till 40, 45, 50. So those 10 years that I'm going to be in the fast lane, dude, when you're on your deathbed, like, I don't know. You got to, in my opinion, you got to be a fucking maniac to be like, well, I had a
I think
brain
it's
drawer
like a
enough.
yeah. I mean, I think it's like you say though. It's you just hit it at the end of it with in your opinion. So like some people feel like
Yeah,
got to get
some
in the
do.
fast lane, got to knock the miserable out as quick as I can. Whereas other people are like, all right, maybe I have to work an extra 10 years, but I'm happy at my job, so I'm
Yeah,
okay working those extra 10 years, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
the discipline to say you're not going to keep chasing more money is also very difficult, right? People will say that, but they'll continue to. You're almost like addicted to trying to grind and make more money. It's
yeah, for sure.
you may say that I if I make X more that I would retire in 10 years, but you might also in 10 years be like, well, now we have kids or now we have this and now I have a bigger house and now I got to make that payment and okay, well, okay, 5 more years and you're just continue
Yeah, you
to
keep
do that.
going. You
it's
keep
Um,
also
going.
there's also always the keeping up with the Joneses mentality, right? Neighbor
yeah,
got a new car. Well, if I work an extra 20 hours, shit, I can get a new
A
car
new car
too.
too.
Or, they just put an addition on their house. I could do that to my house. Or
Yeah,
do
dude,
either of you guys meditate?
I try, but I like
I
get in my. I just think of a million
I do
things.
before bed a lot of the time.
I
What do
can't
you
meditate.
use? What do you use to meditate?
Sometimes I do the Calm app. And then sometimes I just kind of do my like I've got the breathings down from the Calm app. And
Yep.
so I just do the breathings and it's really helped me. I've always had a struggle falling asleep. Always, 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 always. It would take me half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour to fall asleep. And then, half an hour into it, you're like, well, if I go to sleep at this time, I'll get this amount of sleep. And so I started meditating before bed, and all it did was slow my body down. It's fantastic. I love it.
I should. I mean,
Yeah.
I should try it. We used to have like somebody come into the office, and like it was like 45 minutes or a half hour. They try and get you to meditate. But I feel like as I was meditating, I was thinking about what happened 10 years ago and like what life could have been like if I like did X, Y, and Z differently. I
Yeah.
was just thinking about too many things.
I use the Headspace app and I at one point had a 6 month streak where I was doing it every day and
Damn.
but it's you can pick different time frames, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. But they kind of guide there. Most of it's guided meditation, so there's just somebody talking you through what to do, and I found
Mm,
that works very well. And I found that when I can combine like a 10-minute meditation, like 5 to 10 minute goal writing in the morning, and then make sure I exercise in the morning and drink water and see Amanda during the day. I feel like those, if I could do all that in a day, I'll
yeah.
best day ever. If I do that every day, I'll be happy and 100% set. Um, but trying to get in a routine where I do that every day, finding the time to meditate and actually put it in is the hardest part because you're
How
like,
do you feel when you don't get all those things done?
so I up until recently I hadn't been meditating again, but I started again last week. I don't know. I feel like the one that affects me the most is when I don't exercise. If I don't exercise, I just feel like down. It's weird, especially having gone for, dealing with this fucking leg injury that I've had for the last 2 months. Um, I took the last 2 weeks off until yesterday, and just like not exercising, I'm just like I just go fucking crazy, and like it's I don't know if it's like a type of depression or something, but it's just like maybe I'm not getting the endorphins that I do or whatever when I
Mm.
exercise. But if I don't exercise, I definitely feel it the most.
I feel like, yeah,
I mean,
I forget how good I feel when I exercise.
dude,
Yeah,
I when I go a while without like going, and there's a difference between, I definitely think there's a difference between like weightlifting exercise and running exercise. I have
Mm.
never felt mentally better than going for a run. And there are days where I fucking hate going for a run, but when you're done, you mentally feel so much better.
Yeah,
But
the
like I asked
electric.
that because like I've started to try, like I have things I've stopped saying I have things I need to do and
Hmm.
started doing the things I want to accomplish, because I found that if I kept saying I need to do and then I didn't get it all done, day was ruined. I was a mess. I would hate myself. I didn't sleep well that night. I started
Mm.
eating like shit. Like I would beat myself up miserably. So obviously we all have needs in the day, right? Like on Thursdays, I need to go teach on Thursdays, which means I need to have my lesson plan done, right? But it's like I want to work out for 45 minutes. I want to take Colin for a 3 mile walk. Like,
Mm.
so I think that's kind of how I've shifted my thoughts, so
Yeah,
that
that's a good.
I still have the goal orientation, right? You still have things that you want to get done, you still want to have that productivity, but you also
Yeah,
don't beat yourself up as much if you don't get everything done on that list.
Hmm.
that's dude. That's so good because like she's always like, dude, you go 0 to 60. Like everything for you always has to be like you're all in 0 to 60. Like, and I feel like that's just part of how I was raised. And I feel like as I'm getting older and now I'm on my own, I'm realizing like some of the ways I was raised, like while it helped make me who I am, there's some sort of like baggage to some of those things. Like to your point, it's like I need to do X, Y, and Z. I need to eat healthy, or otherwise, like I'm gonna have a heart attack when I'm young, like my dad did. And it's like, dude, you're probably gonna give yourself a heart attack over stressing out over every little fucking thing. And that's probably what gave your dad a heart attack, and not necessarily the way he ate was stress. But it's like you go to bed, you're like, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, and it gets into everything. So it's like I got like I'm like I'm gonna read the Lord of the Rings. I want to read the Lord of the Rings. And it's like, well, 3 weeks have gone by and you're not done with it yet. And it's like, well, who the fuck said you had to read 1,000 pages in 3 weeks?
Yep.
Like, why are you holding yourself to such high standards all the fucking time? Or like mistakes, dude. Growing up, you couldn't make a mistake. Like there was always somebody always had to be blamed for something, right? You just couldn't make mistakes. And I feel like even at work, right? The stress is like, oh man, if I make one mistake, it's like you think all of a sudden you're gonna have a bad review and you're gonna be out of a job. And so it's like, it's just like kind of taking a step back and being like, number one, like life is a journey. If you lose your job, there's other jobs out there. If you don't get certain things done, that's okay, so long as you enjoyed your day, because like tomorrow isn't, I know it sounds cliche, but tomorrow's not promised. So like enjoy doesn't I don't mean you have to be like a fucking slob, but like enjoy your life as well. Like allow yourself to kind of slow down and just kind of like take things in more slowly, and sometimes just not get some stuff done because you were having fun versus like I was playing video games versus like patching up a wall in the other room. Like it's fine.
And as long as it's not a habit, like, okay, so you slack off
Yeah.
a little bit. So tomorrow, yeah, you got to bust your ass and you got to get more of those things done. But it's a healthy balance, right? And like, and you brought it up, and like, yes, and I feel like our generation was the generation of our parents told us there was no use crying over spilled milk, but we got scolded when we spilled milk, right? Like that was a thing. Like
Got my ass cracked with a wooden
I
spoon.
very vividly remember getting yelled at anytime I spilled milk. And I always thought, like, as I grew up, I was like, I used to get yelled at for this. This is weird. And now, like, I catch myself, like,
Yeah.
I'll knock a cup of water over, and I'm like, it's
And you
water. Like,
smack
I'm
him
not
across the
going
face.
to. I'm like, I'm not going to be upset at you for it. Yeah, just fucking beat the shit. No,
Just kidding, guys. Just
no,
kidding.
but like, I catch myself. I'm like, it's water, whatever. Or
It's
like, he
yeah,
spills his
man.
food on the ground. And it's like, yeah, okay, I got to clean the floor. Oh no, like
Yeah.
it really truly is. But like, and it's not just growing up. Like my last job, the job that I quit, really fucked me up in the career field. Like any little mistake and I'd be ostracized from anything, or any little issue and I was like bent out. And so like when I had this student issue last semester, I'm telling my wife about it and I'm like, this is obnoxious. Like, what are they going to think? Are they stopping giving me classes? She goes, they like you. You're fine. And sure enough, this student issue just blew right over and they were like, you're fine, dude. It's cool. It's not even your fault. It's like,
Mm,
they're real. Like things stick with you and it's hard to break those when they stick with you.
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
the older I've gotten, I've tried to like always two things that I think have helped me get through it, like not getting stressed out or angry about things, is being grateful for a lot of things. You know, when you start to feel yourself getting angry, just think about all the things that you do have, or
Mm,
something along those lines, and then realizing most things aren't life or death. You know, like
yeah.
even if you get fucking fired, man, like oh
Yeah.
well, you know.
I'll
Like
go work for the
like
competitor and I'll do everything to bring your ass down.
It
like
might take a couple months
life.
to get another
Yeah.
job, but
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, like you're right though. Life is tough. You're gonna get curveballs. And things are gonna happen, but like it's true.
yeah.
if
Nothing is. You're not going to blow up if something doesn't happen.
if you're healthy, your family's healthy, like,
That's
you
all you
know,
need. Yeah,
that's all you could ask for most days, you know. And then when
yeah,
because those are going to be the hardest parts of life, or when, when your family or your loved ones aren't, and
Yeah.
yeah,
that's
yeah, for
who you
sure,
got to save
man.
your emotions for.
Yeah, you
What
definitely
is
shouldn't. You should definitely not get angry when your roommate who has not won a game of foosball beats you at foosball. Do not get angry at that.
Like I said, as I get older, I started to realize this stuff.
what's like if you could go back and you were able to meet with your younger self, let's just say like, your teenage self, what would you say to them? I think about this like all the time.
Oh, I know mine right off the top of my head. Be more appreciative of who you are. So we don't have to dive into it too much. We already know, like all throughout elementary school into high school, like I was bullied and it took a number on me. I had no self-confidence. I shut myself down. I became a
Yeah.
very introverted person. I to this day still have very introverted tendencies.
Mm.
I've gotten better being, my wife brings it out of me very nicely. She forces me to do things. Um, but she also comes from a family who literally celebrates the smallest things in life. And so she's also taught me like you need to be proud of who you are and what you do. I think part of that comes from bullying. I think part of that comes from we didn't really celebrate things in my family. Like you had a birthday, cool, on to the next one. Um, so she's helped me a lot with that. But I think I would tell my younger self, like, you need to be more appreciative of who you are. You need to be like happier with who you are and what you're doing. Like I look back to even when it was 4 years ago at this point, I guess, when I got my PhD, biggest accomplishment of my professional life.
Mm.
And I like wasn't pumped or ecstatic or excited. I was nervous because people were coming to town. I was nervous because I had to give a presentation. Like I wasn't excited about all of it. And she made a crap ton of treats for my presentation. And her family decorated our entire house with congratulatory stuff. And it's just like, okay, like you need to actually take this moment and be like, fuck yeah, I'm a doctor now. Like that's cool. So that's what I would definitely tell my younger self.
Yeah, for me, besides uh, buying Bitcoin in 2010 and telling myself not to date that girl, I would probably
We always tell ourselves not to date that girl. Come on.
yeah, no. Besides those two things, I would probably do what I said. Just try to remember to be more grateful and fucking realizing shit's not that serious. So you don't fight with your fucking roommate over foosball or whether Tom Brady's a better quarterback than Brett Favre. Shit that doesn't fucking matter in the end. Like
Yeah,
realize
that's
that
it.
shit doesn't matter, dude.
Yeah, small potatoes. Yeah, I
What about
think
you?
I think I just had like a new thought based on what you guys had kind of said, but I think like when you said like don't date that girl, I think for me it's like what I would always say to like
Don't date those
younger guy,
girls.
well, younger guys is like just don't hold on as long.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like learn to let go to certain people and toxicity, and like it's gonna be okay. Because there was times I held on to shit like a little longer than it should have, and like it's just like you're holding on to like the rope is kind of sliding and you're getting rope burn. Just fucking let go.
yeah,
Um,
it's a good one.
because a lot of young men like they do like young guys will do crazy shit for women, and
Mm.
you're just like, and you just want to be like, look, I get it because I was you once, but like, believe me, dude, just
Yeah.
like let
Hey,
go and just
hey,
go
bro.
live.
Breaks don't work. Like you don't.
Oh my god, yeah, yeah. That's another good one. Yeah,
That's not a thing, man.
yeah,
It's only
yeah.
gonna get worse.
I know, right? That's when because it's funny, like everyone laughs about that, but it's just like no, like date that girl because like that girl and like that relationship like kind of made you who you are today, kind of like all everything. So okay, so what I would tell my younger self is a couple things. Number one is slow down. It's all going to be okay. You're going to be proud, or you should be proud of who you're going to become. Like to your point, Seth, like just accept who you are and just kind of like be proud of that. That's one thing. Um, I think the other thing too is like you're exactly where you're supposed to be, even if it doesn't feel like that some days. Right. Like some days, and I told you this like before, like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm really comfortable with that and all that, and I'm grateful for it. But then there's other days where I'm like, fuck, like I got so many things that I'm worried about right now. And like, but then you just go like, well, there's a plan and it's, not my, like, very religious or not, but there's just some days where I'm just like, dude, like I'm blessed. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. All the bad things that happened like got me to where I am today. Like there was always a plan. I didn't know it, but like just trust in it. So if you're worried about losing your job this year because of the economy or because like, a number of things, that's okay because like it's going to work itself out. Things always do end up working themselves out. So I think that's probably some of the things that I would say. But like so those girls that you'd go back in time like don't date that girl. Well, all those things kind of taught me these things to be with that girl.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm exactly
I
where I'm
mean, it
supposed to
also
be.
like
I
it's
should just let
it's
go of some of those a little
Yeah.
earlier.
Okay, so date
cut
that
them out
girl, but just
sooner.
like don't let it fuck you up so much.
Yeah, but a small little thing, by the way, though, could like literally change the trajectory of your life so fucking much.
I mean, it's the ripple effect or the chaos theory or whatever you want to call it, right? It's
Yeah.
stepping on the butterfly effect. It's all those
Butterfly
things,
effect,
right?
yeah.
So, which is the informal for chaos theory. I think I can never keep them straight. But like we've talked about this, like if we had changed any trajectory where we were, would the three of us be sitting here right now talking once a week, right?
Probably
Like
not.
probably not. So I had to date the girl who hated Rich because he ate beans. Like I had to do that. That's a thing. So
Wait. She didn't
I
like
can't
Rich
get
because
over
he ate
that.
did
beans.
you
I
not
don't.
did you not hear this story?
It was
So
like, yeah,
this was
go
like
ahead.
senior year. It was graduation weekend. Rich hadn't moved out yet, but he was
No,
gone.
no, it was New Year's. You had stayed in the dorm over New Year's
Oh,
Eve.
right. I stayed over New Year's and Rich had cans of baked beans on his little wardrobe, right? And she goes, "Whose baked beans are those?" And I was like, "Rich's." And she goes, "Figures." And I was like,
Do I just look
"What?"
like somebody who just eats beans casually, like as a
She
hobby?
just envisioned you like sitting in the corner crouching, eating baked beans all the time.
Fucking love baked beans. What's her problem? Like, there's nothing wrong with me. There's something wrong with her if she doesn't like baked beans. Red flag number 942, Seth.
Listen, I think I got out before I got to 1,000 red flags. Okay,
Yeah,
I think I was at
999.
about nine.
I'll just remember what you called because Tyler ended up. That was
It was
homecoming
homecoming
weekend.
weekend. Yeah.
You called me, and the first thing I said was like, "You're like, dude, we broke up," and I was like, "Congratulations!"
I think you guys played music. I think you put it on speed. It was
Oh,
like
you're having
six
a
o'clock.
ball. It was like
It was
six
like six
a.m.
in the
Yeah,
morning because I was driving back. I was taking a 5 hour drive back
yeah,
to New York City,
yeah. And I was like,
and
"Come
so I
here,
called you.
celebratory shots."
Celebratory shots.
I believe we hung out with sorority girls that day.
We did. We were trying to set you up with girls. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, have you met my
God,
friend Seth?
yes,
Yes,
we
yeah, yeah,
played.
yeah, yeah, man. It's all these little things though. It's like even if like for example, like where I'm at in my career, which has enabled some of the things I'm doing in life now. So I leave my career back home, right? I decide to I end up going to Colorado. When in Colorado, I'm like, you know what? I think I want to change my career path a little bit. She's like, hey, you should look into this one town that I've never heard of in my life. You should look into this one town. I look into this one town. I end up getting a job. I get into the industry that I'm in. You know what I mean? And then like I met certain people, I've networked, I worked hard, and like, now I'm like, I never would have been here if it wasn't for like hey, just like look at, and that's just like one example, right? Of little things like that. I mean, dude, even like the day we got the Tilly behind me, right? It was like, hey, let's go plant shopping. Hey, let's go look at cats at PetSmart. Hey, all of a sudden I'm like, I'm coming home with this puppy. And like Tilly's been a huge part of my life and like training a dog. Like there's all these little tiny things that could change where like life just changes so like just dramatically. But again, it's like I'm where I'm supposed to be. So all the bad things, all the doubts, all these kinds of things, like that's why I think again, going back to younger people, it's like it's gonna be okay. Just like take the good with the bad. That's life. Like obviously try and make your best decisions, but like things will always be what they're supposed to be, and
And
I mean,
you
you have
know
to be calloused, right? Like you have to.
have to get calloused.
You have to
Yeah.
get calloused
callous your
because if you
mind like David
don't,
Goggins.
fucking Goggins, it's like because if you don't get these life experiences, then you're, I don't know, 45, 50, and your parents who have served you everything on a silver platter die. And then what do you do? Like, I'd rather learn about things and become an adult at 18 years old. And no one's saying you're an adult. You're not an adult at 18. The US government might say you're an adult, but you are not an adult at 18 years old. You're not, right?
No.
And so, but that's when you need to start learning what it takes to be an adult. So by the time you're 30, you have your life together, and you are not, for the most part, most people who are 30 are not spending $300 on a Saturday night at a bar getting drunk, right? Like some people are, not every Saturday. Okay. Sometimes things happen. It's fine. But like, it's
weekends are hard not to spend $300. Okay.
It's true. It's very true.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Three RoOs podcast. Until next time. Fuck, we don't have a saying.
That can be our saying. Fuck, we don't have a saying. There it is. Done.